The trucks disappeared behind a high fence topped with barbed wire. I remained in the shadows, listening to the sounds of the night. The port was massive, a labyrinth of containers, concrete lots, and loading cranes that stood as lifeless giants over the black surface of the water at this hour. The deal was done. The cargo was gone. And now, my task was to figure out exactly where it had gone. We had been working on this case for almost 3 months. Arms smuggling was a dirty business, but this network was different. It left no traces. There were no paper records, no clear links between senders and recipients. The weapons simply appeared in hot zones, Africa, the Middle East, South America, as if out of thin air. But air always has a source. I checked my watch. 3:57 nachts. Tonight, we had a single chance to plant trackers while the cargo was still in the city. No raids, no arrests, not yet. We were tracking shipments, mapping out routes, trying to flush out the people at the very top. If we disrupted the deal now, we would only cut off one channel. We needed the whole den. Jay, are you there? Yeah, I see you. Clear. They're gone. But I want to check the container. Give me a couple of minutes. Are you serious? We already have the route. We need to stay on their tail. A couple of minutes. Jay sighed heavily. Just be quick. I'm leaving in 10. I moved forward in silence, careful not to leave any traces. The container stood open, its massive metal door carelessly ajar, as if no one feared that someone might look inside. The air inside smelled of machine oil, metal, and plastic. The crates were gone, but bits of plastic straps and a few splinters of plywood remained on the floor. I shone my flashlight along the walls. The ribbed metal panels inside were lightly coated in dust, but I could see fresh fingerprints in some places. That meant the container hadn't just been used for transport. It had been opened and checked before arriving here. I crouched down, examining the floor. Something glinted in the dust near the exit. I bent down, reaching out my hand and picking it up, a small gold pendant. The cold metal instantly warmed in my palm. I frowned, turning it between my fingers. A thin chain, slightly twisted, as if it had recently been torn off. A small round plate. I slowly flipped it over and squinted, focusing on the engraving. It was my wife's pendant. Shit. I felt something tighten into a hard knot inside me. I knew this pendant down to the smallest detail. I had bought it myself, chosen the inscription myself. It had been an anniversary gift. She wore it every day. What the hell was it doing here? I swallowed, trying to push down the sudden lump in my throat. Olivia could have lost it. She could have given it to someone. Or it could have ended up here for an entirely different reason. Jay's voice crackled in my earpiece. Alex, where the hell are you? I clenched the pendant tightly in my fist. This discovery changed everything. I was still holding the pendant, feeling its weight, completely disproportionate to its size. A small gold disc with an engraving, a tiny chain, and yet it felt like a grenade had gone off in my head. My mind demanded an immediate explanation, but I knew the answers wouldn't come so easily. I took a deep breath, shutting out my emotions. Right now, I wasn't a husband, not a man with an explosive charge buried in his chest. Right now, I was a professional. My name is Alex Grayson, private operative, former DEA agent, the Drug Enforcement Administration. I had been through fire, water, and a long list of operations that would never be written in official reports. I had worked in the International Division for some time, intercepting shipments of drugs and weapons. 5 years ago, I left. There were many reasons, but the main one was Olivia. I wasn't going to become a ghost to my family. Didn't want them to wake up one day to a knock on the door and see men in black suits silently handing them a flag and their condolences. I left the service and moved into the private sector. I opened a security agency specializing in corporate investigations, witness protection, and high-level business and personal security. My life had finally settled into a familiar rhythm, but the past does not let go of those who know too much. 3 months ago, a man whose name could not be mentioned in ordinary conversations approached me. Officially, he was a representative of a major trading company engaged in the export of industrial equipment. Unofficially, he was looking for someone who could uncover the truth without fearing a bullet to the back of the head. I was hired to find out why American rifles, rifles that did not exist in any Pentagon database, had begun appearing in Latin America. The first thing I did was start tracking illegal arms shipments arriving at Florida's ports. Weapons were a business, and the higher the level, the cleaner the operation. These people did not start shootouts in the streets. They bought ministers, created foundations, and hid behind charitable projects. In 3 months, I had uncovered the most important fact. Every weapon passed through the same hands. And those hands were controlled by Nicholas Devereaux. He had once been an analyst for the Department of Defense, working on strategic planning and supply chain logistics for the military. One of those who understood how wars moved, who financed them, and who won them. But 10 years ago, Devereaux vanished. He sold his soul to the shadows and became a man who supplied war with what it fed on: weapons. I was sure I was on the verge of something truly significant, but I never expected to find evidence that would turn my personal life upside down. The small golden pendant in my palm was more important than any document or photograph, because it belonged to my wife. Now, the investigation was no longer just about cartels and illegal arms. Now, I was searching for an answer to a different question. How was Olivia connected to this? I stood in the darkness, gripping the pendant tightly in my palm. The cold metal gradually warmed from my body heat, but inside me, the chill remained. I knew this pendant down to its smallest details. I had chosen it myself, held in my hands when I first fastened the chain around Olivia's slender neck. A small, almost weightless disc that now felt like it weighed a ton. Too many questions, too many possible explanations. But in this business, there was no place for coincidences. I forced myself to breathe evenly. Professionalism demanded order in my thoughts. Now is not the time to give in to emotions. If I wanted to uncover the truth, I needed to set everything else aside and work step by step, like any other operation. Step 1, gather evidence. I slowly examined the container. The door was open, and the scent of machine oil and metal still lingered inside. That meant it had been accessed recently. The dust on the floor had been disturbed. Footprints, torn plastic straps, small splinters. Someone had already been here. I raised my flashlight and swept the beam across the interior, noting every detail. On the right wall of the container, there was a deep scratch, as if someone had scraped it with a metal object. Something crunched under my boot, a fragment of clear plastic, possibly from the weapon packaging. But the most important thing was the spot where I had found the pendant. I leaned in closer, carefully inspecting the floor near the exit. The pendant could not have just fallen here by itself. It was not off to the side, had not rolled into a corner. It looked as if it had been thrown or slipped out at the last moment. If someone drops an object, it usually lands closer to the center or slightly off to the side, but not right at the threshold. That meant the pendant had ended up here during the loading or unloading process. But who had dropped it? 1. Someone working with the container. 2. Someone passing by. 3. Someone who had been inside. Step 2. Check the surveillance cameras. I lifted my hand and pressed the earpiece button. Jay, you still there? Waiting on you, but not forever. We need the camera footage. Check the port's entry sector and the area around the container zone. Damn it. Alex, you know security holds onto those tapes. We can't just walk in and take them. We won't. Get our contact to intercept the last 2 hours of footage. I'm especially interested in the container that was just taken. All right, give me 5 minutes. Step 3, find out who owns the container. I stood up and looked around. Containers were always marked with numbers and codes. I found a right combination of letters and digits on a metal plate near the door and took a picture of it. Now, I just needed to run a check on the owner. Jay, one more thing. Run a search on container ALX 4573. Find out who it's registered to, where it came from, and where it was headed. You owe me coffee for all this. Consider it on me. Jay muttered a curse under his breath, but I knew he would get it done quickly. Step 4. Examine the pendant itself. I looked at the piece of jewelry again. Was there blood on it? Signs of a struggle? Anything unusual? Nothing so far, but I knew better than to trust my eyes in situations like this. I slipped the pendant into my pocket and strode back toward the car with a firm step. A plan for my next move was already forming in my mind. I needed to find out how this pendant had ended up here, and who had dropped it. Because if it was Olivia, so she had been here herself. And if she had been here, then what was she doing in an arms deal? I sat in the car, staring at the empty road ahead of me, but my thoughts were far away, lost in the darkness of the container terminal, among the ghostly silhouettes of trucks and silent figures moving in the shadows of floodlights. I kept coming back to that moment, the metallic floor of the container, the dust, shredded packaging, and Olivia's pendant, cold as the night air itself. Stay calm. Logic. Sequence, I reminded myself. The first step to finding an answer, security cameras. I turned to the laptop screen sitting on the dashboard and opened an encrypted communication channel. A few seconds later, the video feed flickered to life. Jay had already pulled the footage. I've got the port's camera footage. My partner's voice came through the speaker, rough and slightly irritated. But there's a hell of a lot of it. Where do we start? I scanned the list of files. Everything that had happened in the ALX 4573 container zone over the past few hours had been recorded. Filter by the time the container was opened. Around 4 in the morning, the screen filled with images. Blurry security camera footage, concrete lots, containers, moving trucks, scattered figures. I scrolled through them, scanning each one. And then, there it was. A black and white image. A container. A hooded figure approached the door, glanced around, and stepped inside. I froze. The person moved cautiously but quickly, turned on a flashlight, illuminated something inside. I slowed the playback, focusing on the face. Shit, the quality is awful, Jay muttered. But I already understood the most important thing. This person was not a dock worker. You see this? I tapped a finger against the screen. He's not just checking the container. He's looking for something. Or someone, Jay muttered. On the footage, the mysterious figure suddenly froze, turned his head as if he had heard something, and bolted outside, dropping something small onto the floor. Cependant. Stop. Pause it. Jay obeyed, freezing the video on the final frame. We've got the exact moment the pendant fell. Who is this guy? Let's find out. I rewound the video, tracking the stranger's movements. Black jacket, hood up, dark jeans, medium height. He moved with confidence, but not like a laborer, too cautious, as if he knew he was doing something that could get him killed. This wasn't just a robbery. He was looking for something specific, but ran. So he got spooked, or he realized he had found the wrong thing. The next step, track this guy's route. I entered a command into the system, letting the program analyze footage from other cameras to follow the stranger's movements. A minute later, I had a route. He drove in with a gray Dodge Charger. Look, the screen showed the car passing through the port's checkpoint. Shit, he used a fake pass. Can you get a plate number? They're blurred, but I'll try. I watched as the Dodge slowly moved through the port, then stopped in the shadow of the trucks. A minute later, the hooded man stepped out and headed toward the container. But then things got interesting. A few minutes after he left, another vehicle arrived at the container. A black SUV. Then a man stepped out. I narrowed my eyes at the screen as the door opened and the second man's face came into view. Bingo. I recognized him immediately. Nicholas Devereaux. So the container wasn't just a regular shipment. It was a meeting. But with who? And what did Olivia have to do with it? I could feel the puzzle coming together, but one crucial piece was still missing. I checked the Dodge Charger's route. He left the port and headed downtown. Jay exhaled heavily. You're going to follow him, aren't you? I clicked the ignition lock. Yes. And I want to know why he was in that container, and why the hell he had my wife's pendant with him. The engine hummed steadily, like a heartbeat before a gunshot. I gripped the steering wheel, guiding the car through the night city, but my thoughts were far ahead, where the truth was slowly rising from the shadows, ready to turn into a nightmare. Olivia. Her name pulsed in my head, echoing in my temples like a slow, ominous drumbeat. I tried not to jump to conclusions, but every new detail led in the same direction. The container, the pendant, the unknown man who appeared first, and Devereaux. Devereaux didn't deal with small matters. If he had been there in person, it meant this was big. And if something of my wife's had surfaced there, I let out a slow breath. My first target, the dock workers. Someone must have seen what happened that night. There were no truly empty zones in the port, especially when dealing with shipments carrying interesting cargo. I turned off the main road toward a small bar near the freight terminal, the only place where, after a shift, you could find those who had seen more than they should have. The rusty anchor. The faded sign flickered, casting uneven light over the entrance. I parked and stepped out, taking a quick glance at the vehicles outside the bar. A few old pickup trucks, a couple of motorcycles, a semi-truck that clearly belonged to one of the long-haul drivers. Inside, the air was thick with the scent of spilled beer, sweat, and tobacco. A few men sat at the bar, drinking cheap whiskey, talking about whatever they thought was important. But I was looking for someone specific. I moved along the bar, scanning faces. Some of them I recognized, port workers, dock loaders, even a couple of guys from the terminal security team. I needed someone who had been at the deal. And then I saw him, a man sitting in the corner, shifting uncomfortably in his seat. He looked like he was expecting someone to grab him by the collar at any moment. Light brown hair, mid-40s, short stubble, a vest with the port's logo. He was gripping a glass of bourbon in his hands, sipping slowly, not drinking to get drunk, but to smother his nerves. I walked over and sat down across from him. "You worked the terminal that night?" The man tensed, his eyes flicking toward the exit. "Depends on who's asking. Someone who can protect you, or make sure no one touches you." "I didn't get mixed up in any shit, man. I just work there." I slowly pulled a photo from my pocket, the pendant. I had taken a picture before putting it away. I placed it on the table. "You seen this?" The man swallowed hard. "I don't know. Not knowing is a bad answer. I'll ask again. Have you seen it?" The man glanced around nervously and gave a hesitant nod. "Shit, yeah. I saw it." "Where?" "On the guy snooping around the container. He was looking for something. Seemed like he knew exactly what. Then someone pulled up, and he bolted. And, well, I'm not sure, but I think he dropped this thing while closing the door." I narrowed my eyes. "This guy, you know him?" The man shook his head. "No, but I know who might have sent him." I waited. The man swallowed another gulp of bourbon, glanced around, and leaned in. "You ever hear of a guy named Felix Garcia?" Felix Garcia. The name hit my memory like a gunshot. A criminal informant. One of Devereaux's men. "This guy works for Devereaux?" The man shrugged. "I don't know who works for who. I just heard Garcia was looking for someone a few days ago. Not here in the city. He was asking about a woman." I clenched my fists. "What woman?" "Not sure. But sounds like she was connected to some cop. Or ex-cop." The world seemed to freeze for a moment. I leaned back slowly in my chair. "You're telling me Garcia was looking for a woman who might have had this?" The man nodded. "Yeah, and not just looking. He was rattled. This wasn't a normal hunt. He needed information." "You hear her name?" The man glanced around again, lowering his voice. "I'm not sure, but I think her name was Olivia." A knot twisted in my gut. I slowly stood up, tossed a few bills onto the table. "If you remember anything else, find me." The man looked at me with something that resembled pity. "Listen, man, if you're involved with this woman, let her go. Devereaux doesn't leave traces." I didn't respond. I already knew Devereaux didn't leave traces. But that didn't mean I wouldn't find the truth. I walked out of the bar, grinding my teeth. Felix Garcia had been looking for Olivia. Why? There was one more step left. Find Garcia himself and make him talk. I drove down the highway in silence. No music, not even the radio. The car was quiet, but my head was loud, like a storm of memories crashing through, cutting into doubts like shrapnel. Felix Garcia was looking for Olivia, which meant her connection to Devereaux wasn't just a coincidence. But what the hell did it mean? I gripped the steering wheel tighter, thinking back over the last few months. The little things I hadn't paid attention to. The details that now fit into a completely different picture. First sign, the calls. Olivia had always been predictable. She had a routine that hadn't changed in years. She got up early, made coffee, sometimes went for a run. Then she got ready for work at her little art gallery, spent the day there, came home in the evening. But around 3 months ago, when I started digging into this case, something shifted. She was on the phone more often. Not like she was hiding it, but I noticed the difference. She used to answer in front of me, never thought twice about it. But now, she would step out of the room or end the call when I walked in. And one night, I woke up to the vibration of her phone. The phone lay on a nightstand, its screen flashing with an incoming call. The number was hidden. Olivia quickly muted the sound, but I saw her face in the dim glow of the screen. Fear. She told me it was a mistake, that someone had dialed the wrong number. I believed her. Or rather, I didn't dig deeper. Second sign. The trips. Olivia hated long trips. She always said traveling exhausted her. But in recent weeks, she had been leaving town more often, sometimes for 2 or 3 days at a time. She said she was traveling to buy artwork for the gallery, looking for new artists. But Olivia had never handled that personally. She had an agent who took care of those things. So why was she going herself? Where? And to whom? Once I even offered to go with her, but she refused. You know it would be boring for you. At the time, it made sense. But now I was sure she had lied. Third sign, behavior. She had changed. I had felt it on an intuitive level before, but I hadn't been able to pinpoint exactly how. Now, looking back, I understood. She had become more nervous. Sometimes, when talking to me, she would fidget with her bracelet, something she had never done before. She started spending more time in the bathroom, as if talking to someone on the phone. She began drinking more. Not excessively, but a glass of wine in the evening had become a daily ritual, as if she was trying to drown something inside her. Before, I might have chalked it up to stress, work, changes in life. But now it all looked like pieces of a single puzzle. Olivia was hiding something. But what? Was she a victim? Or was she involved in this willingly? I couldn't just ask her directly. If she was guilty, she'd lie. If she was being set up, she'd be afraid. I had to find out the truth before I confronted her. I had 3 options. 1. Pull her phone records and messages. 2. Find out exactly where she had been traveling. 3. Find Felix Garcia and beat everything he knew out of him. I pressed the earpiece. Jay. Yeah. I need all of Olivia's phone record from the last 3 months. Are you serious? Dead serious. Man, you want to track your own wife? I clench my jaw. I want to know how she's connected to Devereaux. A pause. Shit. Alex, you sure you want to know? I looked at the road ahead. No, I didn't want to, but now I had no choice. I sat in my car, lost in thought. Olivia could have been framed, but was she a victim or a participant? So far, the facts pointed to only one thing. She was connected to Devereaux. And if that was the case, it meant he could use her, but it also meant he could fall into a trap. I knew I couldn't just ask my wife for the truth. If she was guilty, she'd lie. If she was being set up, she'd be in danger. So there was only one option. Test everything in action. I decided to use her name as bait, as leverage, as a hook that Devereaux would have no choice but to bite. I understood that Devereaux wouldn't meet me just like that. This was a man who never appeared without a reason. He could only be lured out for something he considered valuable. Olivia was that valuable. First step. Rumors. I reached out to a couple of my old contacts in the criminal world. People who could accidentally start a rumor. A rumor that I had something important. Tell your people that I want to sell information about a woman connected to Devereaux. You sure? One of my informants asked. If this is true, you're going to make some serious enemies. I already have them. Now, it was just a matter of waiting. I chose an abandoned factory on the outskirts of the city. No cameras, no bystanders. Only concrete, rusted beams, and a howling wind whistling through the empty hangars. The perfect place to meet Devereaux's people. I didn't expect Devereaux himself to come, but he would definitely send someone, and I was ready for them. Night, cold air, the smell of old metal and gasoline. I stood by the broken street lamp, waiting for my guests. Somewhere in the distance, the roar of an engine cut through the silence. They were here. A black SUV rolled into the yard, its tires crunching loudly against the gravel. The door opened, and 3 men stepped out. The first, tall, bald, wearing a leather jacket. Hands in his pockets, a faint smirk on his face. The second, shorter, stockier, dressed in jeans and a hoodie, with a dark, brooding look in his eyes. The third, Felix Garcia. Shit. I narrow my eyes slightly. So the rumors had reached the right ears. Garcia was the one looking for Olivia, and now he was looking at me with clear tension. Well, Grayson, the bald one, spoke, stepping forward. Word is, you've got some information we might be interested in. Maybe, I replied calmly. But first, I need to know how much it matters to you. The bald man smirked. What? You try and negotiate? I want to know why my wife is mixed up in your business. Garcia tensed. You sure you want to know? I nodded. Garcia took a deep breath, locking eyes with me. Your wife works for Devereaux. Bam. The air seemed to thicken, but I didn't flinch. Prove it. Garcia scoffed. She was running shipments for us. Olivia wouldn't. She did. Why? Now that, my friend, is the interesting question. I felt something coil tight inside me. If this was true, if Olivia had willingly helped Devereaux, shit. But if she had been forced, then by who? I studied Garcia's face, looking for even the smallest trace of a lie. Where is she now? I asked. Garcia smirked. You know, I could tell you, but what's in it for me? I pulled out my gun. Everything changed. Now we were playing by my rules. The cold metal felt steady in my grip. I wasn't a killer, but I also wasn't an idiot who would play fair when it came to Devereaux's people. Garcia, despite his usual bravado, wasn't stupid. He knew that if he didn't talk now, he might not walk away from this meeting at all. Where is she? I repeated, my voice calm. Garcia stared at me, weighing his chances. The bald man tensed, his fingers twitching inside his pocket. Maybe a knife, maybe a gun. I'd seen movements like that too many times before. I struck first. A sharp elbow to the throat sent him stumbling back, choking, clutching his neck. The stocky one lunged sideways, clearly reaching for a weapon. I didn't give him the chance. A quick move, gun out his hand, then a solid punch to the jaw. He staggered, dropped to one knee. Now, only Garcia remained. He didn't move. He knew exactly how dangerous I was. You want to know where she is? He exhaled, watching me carefully. I don't repeat questions. Garcia wiped blood from his lip, smirking faintly. She's at one of our warehouses tonight. Devereaux wants to talk to her. I stiffened. About what? About how she screwed up her job. Screwed up? That meant Olivia wasn't just being set up. She really had been working for Devereaux. But how? Why? Garcia studied my expression closely. I'll give you the address. Just like that? You're going to kill us anyway if you don't get what you want. I stared at him. The address. Now. Garcia nodded and slowly pulled out his phone. A few seconds of scrolling, then he turned the screen toward me. Warehouse 12B. Industrial District by the docks. I memorized it, then, with a quick motion, slammed the butt of my gun against Garcia's head. He dropped face first to the ground. The bald one and the stocky one didn't move. I didn't kill them, but I didn't give them the chance to follow me either. Now I knew where to find Olivia. Now I could ask her myself. The industrial zone looked dead. Massive warehouses, barely illuminated by a few weak streetlights. I parked behind a shipping container and stepped out, scanning my surroundings. Silence. But I knew there were people inside, and among them, Olivia. I flicked the safety off my gun and moved forward. Back door. I checked the handle, locked. Pulled out my lockpicks. A few seconds, click. The door creaked open. Inside, voices. I slipped in, moving without a sound. Aisles of wooden crates, the scent of oil and metal. Voices ahead. You let us down, Olivia. Devereaux. I froze behind a stack of crates, listening. I couldn't do it, Nicholas. Olivia's voice. She was here, but you did. And now, I have to decide what to do with you. Shit. I peeked out. Olivia stood in the middle of the warehouse, wrists bound with plastic restraints. In front of her, Devereaux, with two of his men. I clenched my teeth. I didn't know if she had betrayed me, but right now, she was in danger, and I was the only one who could save her. I flicked the safety off my gun. Time to end this. In front of her, Devereaux and two of his men. I clenched my jaw. I didn't know if she had truly betrayed me, but right now she was in danger, and I was the only one who could save her. I flicked the safety off my gun. Time to end the game. I stepped out from cover and pulled the trigger. Bang! Bang! The first guard dropped to the ground, clutching his shoulder. The second lunged for cover, but I didn't give him a chance. My next shot tore through his thigh, taking him out of the fight. Now, only Devereaux was left, and that bastard was armed. Devereaux spun around, gun in hand, and fired. I dove behind the crates, bullets shredding the wood inches from my head. Are you out of your mind, Grayson? Devereaux's voice thundered through the warehouse. Shut up and die. I peeked out and fired two more shots, Bullets whizzed past his head, forcing him to duck behind a metal container. Click. Shit. One bullet left. So you want to play the hero, Alex? Devereaux's mocking voice carried from his hiding spot. Do you even know who you're saving? I didn't answer. You think your wife is innocent? Are you serious? Devereaux laughed. She spent more nights with me than she ever did with you last year. She fed me your secrets. A jolt of confusion. A sharp, searing pain in my chest. But I didn't give myself time for emotions. You're full of shit. Am I? Devereaux continued. Just look at her. Let her tell you the truth. Or are you too scared to hear how she whispered your secrets into my ear in bed? And that pendant. How do you think I got it? She left it at my place after we fucked. I knew he was trying to provoke me. But that goddamn provocation hit too deep. I peeked out, and at that exact moment, Devereaux fired, forcing me to duck again. You had to notice how she changed, right? Got nervous? Secret calls? Mysterious trips? My fingers tightened around the grip of my gun. You're lying. You want proof? His voice turned sickly sweet. I have it, but you'll never see it because you're going to die here, Grayson. And then, the sound of shattering glass. Somewhere on the other side of the warehouse, shouting and rushing footsteps. Reinforcements. A lunge from cover, but Devereaux had already used the moment. The sneaky bastard. He bolted for the emergency exit, dashing up a metal staircase. See you around, Alex. Give my regards to your wife. The door slammed shut with a metallic crash. I rushed forward, but it was too late. Devereaux was gone. I turned to Olivia. She stared at me, eyes wide. Is it true? My voice was raw, a mix of rage and pain. She trembled, but whether she nodded or just flinched, I couldn't tell. Did you sleep with him? Alex, it's not what you think. Her voice was quiet, breaking. But right now, I didn't know what to believe. With a sharp motion, I cut her restraints. Let's go. But you need to, I said. Let's go. I couldn't listen to her excuses right now. Too much anger, too many questions, and far too few answers. But now I was going to get them. The house felt empty. I opened the door, pushed Olivia inside, and shut it behind us. A dull click of the lock. A heavy silence in the air. I didn't turn on the lights. The faint glow of street lamps seeped through the windows, casting long shadows on the walls. Olivia stood near the entrance, arms wrapped around herself. She didn't try to speak, didn't ask for explanations, didn't beg. She just stood there, like a prisoner awaiting judgment. I ran a hand over my face, feeling the adrenaline slowly fade, leaving behind pure, burning fury. Seat. She walked silently to the living room and sat on the edge of the couch. I remained standing. For several seconds, I just watched her, trying to read her expression, but I didn't recognize her. The woman sitting in front of me wasn't the one I knew. Her shoulders were tense. Her fingers trembled slightly. She wouldn't meet my eyes. I pulled the pendant out of my pocket and threw it onto the table. A quiet clink of metal against wood. What the hell was this thing doing in a container full of weapons? Olivia flinched but didn't lift her head. Answer me, Olivia. She closed her eyes and took a deep breath. I can't explain everything to you. No, you can. You just don't want to. She clenched her teeth. If I tell you the truth, you'll hate me. I let out a dry, bitter chuckle. Too late. Olivia bit her lip as if holding back tears, but I knew. This wasn't the kind of woman who cried out of weakness. She was afraid. Did you sleep with him? My voice was cold as a knife's edge. She nodded silently. Fuck. I felt something twist inside me, tightening like a vice, but I didn't let my emotions take control. How long? 6 months. 6 months. I clenched my fists but kept myself in check. Why? She suddenly lifted her head, and in her eyes, a twisted, broken fury flared. Why? You really don't understand? No. Explain. She stood up, stepped closer. You lived in war, Alex. Even after you left the DEA, you never came back to me. You stayed there. In the dirt, in the blood, in your damn world where only strength mattered. I was just a convenient picture for you. I stared at her, unblinking. I was a weakness, not a wife. You never trusted me. And Devereaux, he gave me what you never did. Access to secrets. She paled. What did you leak to him, Olivia? She slowly turned away, hugging herself. At first, nothing. And then she shut her eyes. Then I became useful to him. Fuck. Did you know what he was doing? Yes. Did you know he was an arms dealer? Yes. Did you give him information about me? She didn't answer right away. I could feel it. If she lied now, I would know. Sometimes I gritted my teeth. What exactly? She ran her hands over her face as if trying to wipe away the guilt. About your clients. The ones you were protecting. Shit. I had always worked with high-profile individuals. Politicians. Businessmen. People who were prime targets. And Olivia sold them out. Do you even understand how many people could have died because of you? She spun around sharply. Do you really think I wanted this? I was breathing heavily, fists clenched. You could have stopped, but you didn't. She let out a bitter laugh. And would you have? Could you have just walked away? You didn't even try. Olivia looked at me. Something shattered in her eyes. You left me no choice, Alex. I felt it. If I stayed here one more second, I wouldn't be able to hold myself back. I turned and walked out onto the street. The cold night air hit my face. I couldn't be near her. Not now. But now I knew the truth. And I knew Devereaux wasn't finished playing his game. I stood on the porch, staring at the darkening sky. Inside, everything was boiling. I had trusted her. Fuck, I was ready to die for her. And she just sold my secrets. Fuck the bastard who sold death and never even tried to stop. But Devereaux was still breathing. And now I knew how to fix that. I took a deep breath, forcing my pulse to steady. No emotions. Just a plan. Olivia thought I hated her. She was wrong. I was going to use her. I walked back into the house. Olivia was still sitting on the couch. Her face was pale. Her shoulders tense. Her gaze was empty. She knew it was over, but she didn't yet know what would come next. I lowered myself into the chair across from her. You're going to help me catch Devereaux. Olivia flinched, lifting her gaze. What? You heard me. And if I refuse? I pressed my lips together, suppressing a cruel smirk. You refuse? Then I'll hand you over to the feds. Or worse, to his competitors. I watched her closely. Do you think you were the only one working for Devereaux? He has enemies who would love the idea of getting their hands on his former whore. Olivia let out a sharp breath, her face turning even paler. Alex, you knew what you were getting into. I leaned forward, pinning her down with an icy stare. So choose. Either you work for me and get a chance to survive, or we say goodbye right now. A few seconds of silence. She swallowed hard. What do I have to do? Bingo. Do you know how to contact him? She nodded. He has multiple communication lines. He'll be expecting my call. I pulled out my phone and placed it in front of her. Call him. Tell him you want to meet. That you need his forgiveness. That you're ready to prove your loyalty. Olivia tensed. He won't believe me. He will. Because you'll tell him you have something he wants more than anything. She slowly lifted her eyes. What? I leaned in closer. Me? She froze. You want me to lure you into a trap? You've already betrayed me before. Just do it one more time. A subtle reminder. She flinched but remained silent. Set up the meeting. Tomorrow. And then what? I smiled slowly. Then I'll kill him. Olivia dialed the number. Ringing. 1, 2, 3. Who is this? A tense voice answered. Nicholas, it's me. A pause. You fucked up, Olivia. She glanced at me quickly. I nodded. Keep going. I know. And I want to fix it. Really? Devereaux chuckled. And how exactly? I'll give you Alex. A pause. But a different one this time. He was interested. I need proof. Olivia hesitated for a second, but quickly recovered. I'll bring him to you. Tomorrow. Where? I grabbed a piece of paper and wrote the address. An abandoned factory. She relayed the information to Devereaux. I hope you're not lying, Olivia. You'll find out tomorrow. Click. Call ended. I took back my phone, staring at her without emotion. Good job. She didn't look pleased. Are you really going to kill him? I stepped closer, tracing my finger along her chin. She shuddered. Are you seriously asking me if I can kill the man who fucked my wife behind my back? She shut her eyes, pressing her lips together. Just be there on time, Olivia. And pray you don't lie to me again. Tomorrow, Devereaux dies. The night was cold, thick like stale smoke in a windowless room. I stood in the shadows, gripping the radio in my palm. Positions. My voice was low, steady, emotionless. All set. If anyone shows up with extra men, we'll blow them to hell. I nodded, even though no one could see me. Tonight it ends. Either Devereaux falls, or I do. My heartbeat was as steady as a metronome, tapping out the rhythm of a predator's patience. Nearby, just a few steps away, stood Olivia. No diamonds, no fancy dresses, no role of the devoted wife. Just the shadow of a person who had run from fate for too long and now found herself at its edge. She knew she might not make it back, and yet she was seeing it through to the end. I didn't believe in miracles, but tonight I believed in only one thing: for revenge. The headlights cut through the night, casting harsh light over the metallic structures of the abandoned factory. Two black SUVs rolled to a slow stop in front of the hangar, like predators sniffing out their prey. The door opened, and he stepped out. Nicholas Devereaux. As always, calm, confident, a slight smirk playing on his lips. But his eyes, tense, alert. He sensed a trap. 3 armed men stood behind him. From the corner of my eye, I caught movement. My men were ready. But we couldn't shoot yet. Devereaux needed to come closer. Olivia. His voice was low, syrupy, laced with venom. Glad you finally figured out where you belong. Olivia tensed, but forced herself to smile. I just want to make things right. Devereaux nodded, then turned his gaze to me. And here you are. A spark of excitement flared in his eyes. You know, I've always wondered who was smarter between us. Looks like we'll find out tonight. I stared at him in silence. I'm glad you came. Devereaux chuckled. But you know what worries me? This is all a little too easy. He narrowed his eyes, stepping closer as if he could read my mind. Tell me, Grayson, you don't actually think you can kill me, do you? I tilted my chin slightly, keeping my face unreadable. No, I don't think. I know. Devereaux's smirk disappeared. His hand slid toward his holster. Olivia moved first. No. She stepped forward, raising her hands, but a gunshot. A sharp, deafening crack. The wind whipped her hair aside as blood sprayed into the night. The bullet struck her square in the chest. She staggered, her eyes going wide, as if refusing to believe how fast it had happened. The world slowed to a crawl. I watched as she collapsed to her knees, pressing her hands against the wound. Her lips trembled, but no sound came. Then her body hit the concrete. Blood slowly spread beneath her, soaking into the cold stone. That was it. Devereaux exhaled heavily, lowering his gun. Shame. I actually liked her. I stared at him, and inside, everything froze. No pain. No regret. Only fire. The firefight erupted in an instant. My team opened fire, ripping the air apart with a hiss of bullets. The first of Devereaux's men went down with a shot to the throat, choking, clutching at himself like it could somehow save him. The second dove for cover, but I wasn't distracted. I saw only Devereaux. Only him. He fired, retreating, but I moved faster. We emptied our magazines almost simultaneously. I lunged forward. A punch, hard, precise, knocked the gun from Devereaux's hands. But at that moment, pain sliced through my side. A knife. Devereaux had managed to pull it. Shit. I staggered, but didn't fall back. Pain didn't matter. Another blow, an elbow to his face, making him stumble. We both crashed to the ground, rolling across the concrete like two wild beasts, trying to rip each other apart. Devereaux tried to get up, but I pinned him down, pressed him to the ground, grabbed the knife. You thought you'd win, huh? Devereaux grinned through the blood. Honestly? Yeah. I drove the knife into his side. Deep. Devereaux gasped, convulsing. I pulled the blade out, then slowly pushed it back in. Deliberate. Silent. Merciless. You kill my wife. Devereaux chuckled through the blood, but I could see his eyes were already glazing over. She was dead to you long ago. I slowly pulled out my gun, aimed at his head. One shot. Bang. Devereaux froze in place, his body locking up as if time itself had stopped around him. His eyes, once burning with determination, glazed over, losing all signs of life. He was gone, just like that. I stood there, my breath coming in ragged gasps, the weight of the moment pressing down on me. The pain in my side pulsed like a warning, a cruel reminder that even in victory, there was always a cost. I clenched my jaw and forced myself to look at Olivia. She was dead. I didn't know if I regretted it. I wasn't sure if I even felt anything at all. I only knew that it was finally over. The long, twisted road that had led me here, the betrayals, the blood, the lies, it had reached its inevitable conclusion. The morning light filtered through the broken curtains, painting the room in soft, golden hues. Outside, the world kept moving, oblivious to the chaos that had unfolded here. I sank onto the bed, staring up at the ceiling, my mind strangely empty. My hand brushed against the bandages on my side, and instantly, a sharp, searing pain jolted through me, forcing a low hiss from my lips. The wound was still fresh, a parting gift from Devereaux. In the end, he had managed to get his shot in, but now Devereaux was dead, and now I was free. I closed my eyes, letting the memories play out in my mind like an old, flickering film reel, each frame laced with violence and regret. The deafening gunshot, Olivia collapsing onto the cold concrete, the pool of blood spreading beneath her lifeless body. For years, I had imagined what this moment would feel like. I had told myself that if it ever came to this, if I ever lost her, there would be an unbearable pain, something raw and all-consuming. But there was nothing. No grief, no sorrow. Just an empty silence stretching endlessly inside me. She had made her choice. She had lied, manipulated, betrayed me. And yet, despite it all, I had once loved her. Once. I never put my faith in fate, karma, or divine retribution. I had always believed that in this world, debts were paid in blood, and no one got away unscathed. Olivia had paid her price. Did she deserve death? I didn't know, but I knew with absolute certainty that she didn't deserve forgiveness. Betrayal is immeasurable. It isn't weighed in words or wounds. It poisons everything, turning love into a weapon, memories into ghosts, and trust into a distant, unattainable fantasy. That's what destroys people. Not bullets, not knives, but broken promises. They carve the deepest wounds, the kind that never truly heal. Time passed. 3 months, to be exact. The pain in my side dulled, the scars on my body faded, but the real wound, the one buried deep inside, remained untouched, raw beneath the surface. I left. I abandoned the city, the dark alleys, the places where my name still carried weight. I turned my back on the shadows that had consumed me for too long and disappeared into a life that felt foreign, almost unreal. I found myself by the ocean, where the air was thick with salt instead of gunpowder, where the waves drowned out the echoes of gunfire. A place where no one knew my name. Every morning, I walked along the shoreline, feeling the wind cut through me, stripping away the remnants of who I used to be. I bought a small house, the kind I never thought I would live in. A quiet life. A life without car chases, without gunfights, without enemies lurking in the darkness. At first, I thought I would suffocate. I had spent years feeding off the rush, living on the edge of life and death, my veins fueled by adrenaline. Without it, I felt like I was missing something essential. But then, slowly, came the realization. Adrenaline is just another addiction. And like all addictions, it destroys. Now, I was learning to live without it. Not running, not fighting, not looking over my shoulder, just living. One morning, as the first light of dawn painted the horizon in soft shades of gold, I sat on my porch, a steaming cup of coffee in hand. The world was quiet, untouched by violence, untouched by the past. For the first time in a long, long while, I wasn't waiting for anything. No threats, no betrayals, no ghosts lurking in the corners of my mind. Just silence. Just me. I wasn't an agent anymore. I wasn't a hunter. I wasn't the man I had been before. Now, I was just Alex Grayson, a man who had survived a war, a man who had walked through fire and come out the other side, a man who had finally, against all odds, started over. And that was the real victory.